I'm Phish historian Alex Grosby of the Phishsonian Institute. If you don't know me, I'm the on-air host of the Phishsonian Hour on Jump Radio. I also staged a pop-up museum exhibit at the Phish Studies Conference at Oregon State University. Welcome to the Institute headquarters. We'll be beaming from here every so often to deliver fun factoids and information to help even the biggest noob find their way. Let's get into today's topic. It's that time of year, a spooky time. This show will be about Phish on Halloween. Halloween is probably the most important Phish holiday, with New Year's Eve sitting second. That's because Halloween is Iculus' birthday. But we're going to focus on one Halloween in particular. Being featured on the Halloween dinner in a movie, it's Halloween 1996. Phish began the tradition of playing a musical costume in 1994 at the Glens Falls Civic Center with the fans' choice of the Beatles' White Album, and continued with the fans' choice of Quadrophenia at the Rosemont Horizon in Illinois in 1995. After hitting the highs of New Year's Eve 1995 at Madison Square Garden and the Clifford Ball Festival in Plattsburgh, 1996 felt a little lost for direction. A musical Now What? From the band. Halloween 1996 would be a career-changing masterwork, where for the first time the band and not the fans picked the album. Fan art of the era seemed to point towards the Allman Brothers Band album Eat a Peach, given the show's location at the Omni Coliseum in Atlanta, Georgia. That was quickly put to an end when John Fishman gave an interview 4 days before the show that it was going to be an album from the 80s. Unlike previous shows, fans learned what was in store when they walked through the doors of the Omni with the first ever Phish bill. The cover revealed the band would be performing Talking Heads' Remain in Light. Half fun joke and half serious discussion, the Phish bill felt like a perfect accompaniment to the band it portrayed. With a cover page of a Fishified remake of the iconic album cover, humorous ads for Gordo Liquor and Scent of a Fool perfume, and a Broadway-style Who's Who full of amazing jokes about each band and crew member, at the heart of the Phish bill is a breakdown of the album's history and the band's connection to it. Written by then-future Phish biographer Park Putterbaugh, it goes deep in the album's history as both a product of the 1970s and a harbinger of 1980s new wave and world music's influence on popular music. He quotes David Byrne about the making of the album saying, quote, "We wanted to develop an understanding of the African music concept of interlocking, interdependent parts and rhythms that combine to make a coherent whole." From the band perspective, the Phish bill makes it clear the album was Trey's choice, quoting him as, quote, "It's one of my all-time favorites, a really influential record for me. I may have listened more to this album than any other album ever. I practically learned how to play the guitar by listening to Remain in Light. When I wanted to practice something new, I would put the album on and jam along. It was so much more fun than playing over a metronome." I won't get too much into the music, as you can hear the show in its entirety on Live Phish Volume 15, but highlights from the first set include Prince Caspian Reba and a Forbin's Mockingbird where David Byrne appears as the face of Iculus. Joined by Dave the Truth Grippo and Gary Gazaway on horns, and Santana percussionist Carl Perlazzo for the costume set, the album comes alive with a nervous energy that actually feels a bit unsettling. It feels foreign, less like Phish than anything to come before or after. Channeling that into the first 4 songs of the album, there's a release after Once in a Lifetime, and the energy dims. You can feel it as the slinky Houses in Motion moves at a much more slower pace than the songs that preceded it. Maybe the band felt pressure to nail Once in a Lifetime, the song most of the audience would know from the record. Other bands feeling that success might have toured that version around for a year or two and even released a single. Phish, however, had other ideas, and the album's most direct legacy came in the form of Cross-Eyed and Painless. Just 2 days later, playing the Coral Sky Amphitheater in West Palm Beach, Florida, with Carl Perlazzo in tow, they expanded the song further, taking it for a 25-minute ride as opposed to the Omni's brief 10 minutes. John Fishman would explain the song's impact on him in the Phish book. Quote, "Remain in Light was drumming and singing at the same time 101 for me. There were so many layered vocal and instrumental parts on Remain in Light that there was simply no way for me to avoid singing. I had to. The album's drumming was consistent through entire songs, so after I learned the 4 percussive parts I usually do, I was able to add a fifth part, my voice, which essentially became a fifth limb. In general, I prefer to just play my drums. Now I'm eager to sing, and singing has become a good way to spice up a song that doesn't have a particularly interesting drum part. When we learn a new song with several different vocal parts, certain lines will jump out at me, and I'll try to grab them as a singer. Think about that the next time you listen to Fishman's vocal on Leaves on Sigma Oasis. The third set and encore of 10/31/1996 is largely forgettable, except for the percussion and horns addition to some Phish classics. Phish had expended so much energy into the costume, the third set was more about the relief of the familiar. So what more about the performance's legacy? Trey said it well at the end of the Fishbill article. This album embodies a concept that's become important to us, that a group, playing as a group and not as four individuals, can go so much further. It's important to learn to play in a context where every note counts and the band is linked together as a whole. I think that Phish has continued to push this further and further. Trey picked up the mini kit and keyboard, allowing Page and Mike to lead more in 1.0. In 3.0, the new songs have been more about the total band than Trey's solos. Fishman playing actual musical notes on the Marimba Lumina. It all stems from this one moment, let alone all the shows where Trey chants "Still Waiting" throughout a set. Trey Anastasio spoke of the band's legacy recently on Sirius XM Phish Radio.
The best one was Remain Alive. No question for me. And I'm really proud of that. And it's very important to remember, to put these in historical context. That was not a well-known album at the time.
Halloween 1996 changed the musical costume from fun gag to serious meditation on the band and its musical influences. Eric Fleming would put this into a great vision in the Phish Companion second edition. Quote, "This is, in my opinion, a much more drastic and long-lasting effect on the band than either the White Album or Quadrophenia has had. Of course, this may change tomorrow, or in 6 or 7 years, some Halloween night, we all may be treated to that evening's musical costume, the complete cover of a Bjork album, and come to realize over the course of the next year or two exactly how much of a difference her sampling and voiceover techniques have had on Phish. And that's part of the beauty of a musical costume, the ability to turn yourself, if only for one night, into someone else. Or maybe, if you choose, for longer. Maybe Bjork, or maybe Casbah Voxed, but that's a story for another episode. I'm Alex Grosby of the Phishsonian Institute, signing off saying, history is what you make of it, so rage on, friends.